Okay, welcome back, everybody. We're still in the morning session. Our next agenda items are action items. First one up is the meeting minutes of March 15th. Everybody with that one?
I did not see any issues with that.
Do you want to move to approve?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes of March 15th.
I'll second that. All in favor, please say aye.
Uh,
Aye, motion carries. Next item we have on our agenda, it's also an action item. This is approval of Valley County Fair Board members to be authorized users on Valley County Fair Board Umpqua bank account. We have that somewhere in
They're
there.
changing their signatories and they're adding Casey onto that so she can pay bills for now. We had a great conversation about them transitioning their budget, all of their billing to the clerk's
Oh,
department.
great.
And so we will start doing all of their billing. Casey was totally in agreement with that, so she's familiar with the way that the extension office does it. So I think that we'll bring that in-house and that will be good for all of them.
Commissioners, are we starting that process this year, this fiscal year?
With your advice, whatever you would like
When
to
do
do.
you want?
We can do it now. We just have, right now, again, the process it was just a contribution that we made to the Valley County Fair Board. But if the process is changing and you've made them aware of that, then we will just need to get those, the clerk's office will just need to receive those invoices. We'll prepare the invoices, or Casey will prepare the invoices. And then we'll just expend it out of that one expense line. But what we should look at in fiscal year 2022 is just how we're identifying the expense lines for the fairground,
Okay,
for the fair.
so I've requested them that they do a full budget for us, just like
Okay.
all the other departments
That's
do.
great.
And so if you guys would send over, that to Casey.
Okay.
She will be our main contact. She is their treasurer.
Okay.
Now, the one thing I did discuss with them, we're gonna have to figure out, Doug, is on Fair Week, when they have to do some very quick turnaround of checks. I said maybe we could go ahead and keep this small account for them, or they will identify, what they're gonna need that week, and we could do it from a separate account. But then Casey also stated, they pretty much know upfront what they're gonna need, and we could go ahead and get approval and get those checks
We could do that.
done, so that, they'll be able to give those out. So it'll be a continued conversation, and if you, whatever I need to do to engage in that, to get that transition, that's great. But Casey is familiar with the process,
Yes.
and Casey Mock, I asked Casey Carnes to contact Casey Mock and get everything set up and structured.
So did you guys talk at all about maybe a debit card that could be
We've
used
not. That's a good
during the
idea.
fair, so that instead of they having to run to get checks, they could use a debit card?
That's a good idea.
I don't know, it's kind of up to Doug and Gabe's call, because Gabe would have to set it up, but most of the time, those bills from the fair are paying judges. Like, they'll put them up at the Ashley Inn Hotel, where we can pay those later, they can
Right.
bill those to us, but those folks usually want paid, be horse judge or beef judge or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
They were talking about maybe, some cash for some of the cowboys and that kind of stuff, and they said it just needs to be really, everything has to be transparent. We have to balance to the penny at the end of the day, figure out the process.
what did you guys talk about on the beer garden?
I asked why we don't have an enclosed beer garden, and actually got response back. Names are escaping me at this moment, one that runs the lakefront.
Jennifer?
Jennifer, thank you. She's had the same concerns about serving not in an enclosed space. So I think we need to revisit that, especially with the sheriff this year, and find out why we don't have an enclosed beer garden where they have to remain there if they're drinking.
I think that's a great idea. I know the Fair Board rents a big tent. It's quite a bit. Brian Hines talked to me a couple of years ago about the fair should buy their own tent.
We should.
And I think they're $25,000 or $30,000 for a tent. But that's something that we can look at in the budget, and build it into their down the road. But there should be, the last beer garden, I remember it was outside. between the fair and the rodeo grounds, and as you went by, you gave them whatever, and you got a thing of beer and you went into the rodeo grounds. I'm going, I don't know if that's a good idea or not to do it that
I
way.
don't believe that it is, and I have raised that concern.
They also do a kind of a beer thing the day of the auction. So buyers come in and they have a couple of beers and they loosen up, and the goal was that they loosen up more wallets if they all had a couple of beers in, but no, there's gotta be a proper way to do that. And Jennifer should know that, I don't think. But it's in that tent, it's in that room, and kids aren't allowed and on that kind of deal.
Yes.
So,
We will be revisiting that, strengthening a few things over there.
okay, to get back on our agenda, I'm gonna make the motion that we approve Valley County Fair Board members Carl Barrett, Zachary Redmond, and Casey Carnes as authorized individuals to open, deposit, and withdraw or close accounts at Umpqua Bank.
I'll second.
Did you get all that done? Yes, sir. When moved and second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Point Networks proposal and consulting agreement, and I don't know anything about this, I'm assuming this is
That's me.
yours, Sherry, and they sent it to us somewhere. There it is.
So during our broadband subcommittee group that we have formed throughout the county, there's been conversation about doing a full countywide map. Broadband is currently offered, what different speeds are offered by the different vendors, and where there is a need for additional broadband services. So until we have this underlying study completed, it's difficult to find funding for projects in order to strengthen our broadband footprint in Valley County. So Entry Point was a company that David was familiar with and has worked with Chris Curtin and others in the region, working right now with New Meadows and some expansion over there. We would like to include New Meadows in our program because there are some opportunities coming from the north that would allow us to maybe use that technology and bring additional broadband to this area. So this is, Entry Point is a group that's worked in the area, services here, our vendors here, and federal funding that's coming, we can use it for broadband services. So I am requesting that we approve this contract and do a full.
Or up to $24,000.
That's correct.
And Doug, where do you think we could take this out? Is this out of Pilt? Or can we use it out of the general fund reserve? Where are you recommending? Because I think if we do this, we're gonna have a pretty solid map. This is what we got. This is what we need, and then it'll qualify us for grants to do just that,
Yes.
the way I see it.
And the new monies that we are getting through the American Rescue Act, Recovery Act,
Okay? Oh, yeah?
those monies can be spent on broadband. It's one of the very few buckets that we will have to be able to spend those funds. So I would foresee that we could utilize this study to be able to effectively spend those funds once we receive them. A portion thereof, anyway.
Part of this contract talks about a 2-year effective date. So this is $24,000 a year, or
No,
is this just one time money?
this should be a one-time request.
They have 2 years to complete it.
Yeah, and I don't think.
Is that gonna be
it'll take that
fast
long.
enough?
Sure. I don't think it'll take that long to do it, but it's
No.
getting the vendors to talk.
I guess my question is, should we give them the option to go up to 2 years? Or should we just limit it to 1 year?
I think we have to give them the option to do whatever they need to do to complete the study, so that we have a full study at the end of the day. I don't think it'll take that long, but if it does, then
That's 15 days worth of work. 24,200 an hour.
and I think it does kind of go back to, piecing together enough information from all of the vendors and everything. It's such a fluid conversation right now with broadband because there is a state-funded group that's focused on broadband. Imagine Idaho is focused on broadband, and there's federal funding coming. And so that it's pretty fluid, and I think that they will take those days at the appropriate time when enough information is available to us. We're trying to research too where dark fiber could come in if there's any opportunity for that. A couple of the things, so this is a request for Brian Oki to complete this contract. There was a few items that he saw that he had recommended that we revise before we fully approve this. And so this is a recommendation to move forward with his, and not finalize the contract until he has input on it. There's proprietary information on who owns the information.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Complete. Did you see Brian's?
No, I didn't see that, but I saw the proprietary. I think it would be a great idea to table this with the understanding that he's gonna go through it and any concerns and then come back to us. I think that's my biggest heartburn is the 2-year allotted time to do this.
Okay, I'll bring that up and see if they can reduce that.
I think it should be something that they can nail out. If it's 15 days worth of work, they should be able to nail it out this year.
The other thing was that he had concerns with was the choice of law. The proposal is Utah. Since it's a Utah company, we should have that in Idaho. And then the waiver of jury trial and shifting of the fees, that's not advisable.
How does it handle, do these guys have the right to go to Ziply or Old Frontier and say, we want to know what you've done? Can they do that?
They have the right to do that, or whether that information will be released is a good question.
Okay.
So that's why it
That was
might
the
take a little while.
I think of last time, it's none of your damn business, we don't have to share it.
Well, and that's what's going on at the state right now legislatively. Imagine Idaho is trying to push for a lot of information, and all of the third-party vendors are pushing back very strongly because they don't want to release that information. And we need to have
Yeah.
approval to, to move forward in our area. One of the main things is that right now, the third-party vendors can state, well, we have you guys covered because Cascade only has 1,000 residents, Donnelly 500, McCall 3,500. We can cover that. But what they don't have to plan for is every weekend and every, 3-day weekend when we get 5 times that many. So the FCC doesn't have any way for them, to hold them accountable because technically, yeah, they have us covered for just people that live here every day. We have to be able to overbuild to service all of those extra weekends and the 3-day weekends when people are here.
Good, I'll be down there for Palm Sunday.
That is what we are trying to accomplish through this committee that we have.
Yes, I have, and I'll,
So then I'll make the motion that we table this for further investigation by our prosecutor to
file Red, I think.
go through the contract. I think it's a great idea though, I support the concept and
Oh, yeah.
I'll second that.
hopefully it'll happen.
Yeah,
Who did second it? Any more
Yeah.
discussion?
it was all.
I guess at that time, Doug, we can figure out where we want to take it out.
Yes, sir.
Is there any
Economic development would be a potential depending on the
What about
amount.
911 or communications or anything?
I would not recommend that you take it out of the,
Because that's all pretty much for dispatch stuff.
And I think once we get the federal funding, Doug, we talked about a line item for that federal fund.
there will have
And
to be one.
I would recommend that that is where we take this from,
Okay, all right.
because broadband will be an accepted use.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Yellow Pine Water System, the YWPA support letter. And I see we're gonna talk to them later on.
At 140.
You wanna wait till then?
I would recommend that until after you see the presentation.
Okay.
And overtime.
So then I'll table that one,
We still have to work on.
if that's okay with you, Sherry. Then the last one on my list is the V Corp authorizations for, can't read my writing.
So this is for representation
Oh, that's right.
from Valley County as an agency as part of V Corp. So B Corp has identified in their bylaws that each one of their agencies will have a voice, only if there is, a signature on this contract.
Yeah.
Skip and I
Well, it's a
discussed that
question of whether-
I think Valley County should have one voice.
Yeah.
And then we as commissioners can decide who that would be that would serve on that board.
Well,
Obviously,
I think
Skip, I
that's
think is a
excessive
valid
myself.
choice for that. I attend as many meetings as I can, but as part of the bylaws, you can't miss more than 2 meetings per year.
Yeah,
And
well,
there's
I
no way I
think,
can limit to
I
that
would
type of,
That was my issue too, and ended up being on the same day as the health district.
exactly. And so, and I love what they're doing, and I think that
Scar.
we can
I mean, there is-
choose whoever that voting voice is for the county. But I think just having one voice on there and
Yeah.
signing this agreement would be an appropriate thing to do as an agency.
Right.
So Doug, do we have the actual letter typed out?
Not that I'm aware of.
It says, please return the signed letter of commitment by.
I don't know when that was received, I didn't receive a copy of it, but
And Doug, I got it.
Question of what you guys
I
want.
apologize, I think it was on the 18th.
Adoration.
So there is a letter, I can go ahead and,
And
um,
if you want.
print that?
Where
And just
did you
fill it
find
out.
that letter? I've been looking for it. It's not on your first
It's from
email.
Shelley Pitt.
I don't have that.
That would be a third.
Oh, wait a minute.
Thursday.
There's PDF right there, maybe? Oh. It won't open for me. If you can print that out, we can put it on county letterhead or whatever, then when we come back after lunch, we can sign it.
Perfect.
So
That
Thursday
work?
would.
So you wanna make the motion then to join up?
I move that we approve the letter, what's it called? The project commitment letter for Valley County to be approved as an agency. Then we will assign
Well,
who will represent Valley County.
well.
And you're thinking Skip should be the one to do that?
Yes, he is actually on their board.
Call on Fridays. That keeps the same pattern.
So can I amend my motion to include that Skip would be the voice for Valley County?
I think it should be maybe 1 or 2 hours.
I'll take that motion.
Yeah.
Any more discussion?
Anyway, when we get together.
All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Why don't you think about it? On Sunday? Okay. Yeah.
What's our address?
We had those problems. up
PO Box 1350 or 219 North Main Street.
To, what was the PO box?
PO Box 1350 83611.
Thank you. And I don't know Skip's phone number either, so.
208-634-5652, extension 227.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, were you wanting to recess now?
Yep, we'll recess and see everybody back here in 1.